Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit from a book. We're going to take a break. And we are on this book here that I made a cover for. And I hope you guys are doing well. This book is, I think, The Archaeology of the Jews by a professor. I've read from him before. I think it's Konner or something like that. Melvin Konner, Unsettled, Anthropology of the Jews. So it's dedicated to the three rabbis, Bernard L. Burson, Arnold M. Goodman, Herbert A. Friedman, with enduring gratitude. The Jews had light and gladness, joy and honor, so let it be with us. From the weekly service ending the Shabbat. Acknowledgement. How can I think of all the people who have contributed to my knowledge of Judaism and Jewishness over more than half a century? I learned the Hebrew alphabet on the knee of my grandfather, Abraham Levin, from the Daily Forward, and watched him sway in tallis and tefillin every morning. My parents were less religious but equally respectful, and they saw to it that I was in the local Orthodox synagogue, Ahavata, Israel, almost every day between age 8 and my mid-teens. It was truly my second home. The Rabbi Bernard L. Burson, the teacher, and even the scoutmaster there gave me the knowledge, the foundation of knowledge and emotion that made this book possible. Conversations with my friend Gerard Glassman, a brilliant boy who came to Judaism late and with great intensity, sharpened my thinking on long walks through the Brooklyn night. In college, I was aloof, but Melvin, then the Hillel director at Brooklyn College, argued with me enough to keep the spark alive. My years in Cambridge, Massachusetts were not very Jewish, but raising a family in Atlanta brought me back into the fold, at least partly. Rabbi Arnold Goodman and others at the Ahavat Ashim Conservative Synagogue were tolerant of my odd relationship to Judaism and helped me receive my childhood knowledge. Steve Weiss, the assistant rabbi, inspired me with his passion and depth, as did Rabbi Mark Kunis, then of Congregation Shereth Israel. Two of my faculty colleagues, Rabbi David Blumenthal and Dr. Deborah Lipstadt, had provided welcome friendship, guidance through their writings and other Jewish texts, and many hours of illuminating conversation. Rabbi Emanuel Feldman, the distinguished leader of the Atlanta Orthodox community for 4 decades, bridged a huge gap of faith and practice to befriend me, and I learned much from him. Dr. Herbert and Hazel Korp generously took my young family under their wing, introducing us to the local Jewish community and inviting us to share Jewish festivals in their home several times a year in Atlanta. For decades, Dr. Schlomalt and David Frankelstein did the same, and the more secular perspective we were as likely to discuss Buddhism or quantum physics as Judaism. Taught me that Jewish practice does not require conventional faith. Steve and Gita Berman, two of the most dedicated members of the Atlantic Jewish world, have opened their hearts to me, and I am grateful for the warmth and humor Dr. Joseph and Rachel Glazer often open their homes to me as Jojo advised me on the translation of Yiddish poetry. When my family faced tragedy, these friends were there. So were my brothers, Lawrence Konner, and my friends Herbert Perluck, Joseph Beck, Sarah Steinhardt, Michael Cantor, Jerome and Melissa Walker, Joan Stone, Peter Brown, and many others, Jewish and not. My first trip to Israel was supported by the American Jewish Committee, and the quite sophisticated tour was led by the late Yehuda Roseman, a Jewish psychologist with broad knowledge and a twinkle in his eye. On that trip, my one meeting with the great Yiddish poet Abraham Shiduklever was inducted imperfectly in 2 or 3 languages. We both liked Robert Lowell. We discovered inspired me to read and tried to translate his work. I spent the following year at the Center for Advanced Studies in Behavioral Sciences, attached to Stanford University, and the friendship of John and Mary Felsteiner, experts on different aspects of Jewish culture, was important both personally and professionally. In 1988, I began teaching a course on Jewish anthropology, and I am grateful to several hundred students over the years since for asking the right questions and forcing me to think more carefully than ever before about the answers. I thank my colleagues in the Department of Anthropology at Emory University and President James Laney and David Minter for their open-minded support. A real turning point for me came in 1989 when I was invited to join the Wexner Heritage Foundation seminar in Atlanta. The 2-year series of tri-weekly 4-hour classes and 3-week-long retreats when in Israel built a second new foundation of Jewish knowledge on old one, and I was laid down in childhood. Wexner assembled people in midlife who had distinguished themselves in some way as Jewish leaders and brought the best scholars to Jewish studies, religious and secular, to teach them. As Rabbi Herbert Friedman, then president of the foundation, the seminar series was his brainchild, and it has now been held throughout the United States. Once said, I was a maverick in this group, but whatever I had to offer, it had a lot to offer me. I made lasting friendships, gained great insight into the American Jewish community, and learned many new things about Judaism and Jewishness. In addition to Rabbi Friedman, I am grateful to the staff and to Leslie Wexner, whose ongoing generosity makes these seminars possible. I also thank Glenda and David Meekiam, Toby, Director Goldman, Michael Rosenweig, and the other members of the seminar. In the late 90s, Rabbi Arnold Goodman organized an interdenominational seminar on Genesis, and it helped me to understand the enduring fascination of those ancient stories. I am grateful to him, the Reverend Jonah Adams and Reverend Jack Graham, Dr. Jonathan Lauder, Dr. Herbert Karp, and the other members of the seminar. I have now made several trips to Israel and have been charged by them not once but several times in different ways. My friends, the Salas Michael Pazit, and their 3 children, not grown, Noga, Ayelet, and Yanni, have opened their home to me and my family many times and taught me about Israel once, and all the exceptional warmth and hospitality have helped create my sense, partial fictional, that I belong there, and their sophisticated insights into Israeli life and history. Passett and clinical psychologist Michael and software engineer, both combat veterans. Both psychologists, Michael and software engineer, both combat veterans. Both doves have helped me whatever grasp I have of the complexities of Israel possible. are both now activists of the cause in Arab. They are also good friends who have helped in many ways others in Israel who have generous in their hospitality, knowledge, and experience. Dr. Eli and Debbie Wetzman and their family, David and Toba Frankel, Rabbi David and Dr. Malchus Shop, Dr. Elihu and Melga Regrab, Esther Freeberg, Dr. Avi Nissan, and Sarah Willen. On one of my many visits, my daughter Susanna took me to meet her friends in Ramallah, East Jerusalem, and Amen. Their generous hospitality across the gap of possible enmity will never be forgotten. One of them, Waldi Husseini, became a friend, and I am grateful for his continuing insight into the bitter anguish of his tragically suffering people. Judith Robertson has provided unstinting professional support for these projects for years, doing library research, reconciling contradictions, tracing down pesky, hard-to-find references, managing my personal library, typing, applying for and securing permissions, and helping during a stressful and disorderly relocation. My agent, Elaine Markson, a friend for decades, believed in the project early on and found a wonderful editor, Janet Goldstein, who helped make it real. Janet, from editorial hand, shaped the book in countless positive ways. Assistant editor Suzanne O'Connor and Lucid Watson has been gracious and helpful as copyright managers. Susanna, whatever, product team helped me fix scores of errors and smooth over many rough places. The physical design of the book by Daniel Lagan, interior, and Michelle Aisha, cover, achieves a level of elegance and beauty that I can only hope the text approaches. Shlomo Finkelstein read the manuscript at a level of detail and with a breadth of knowledge that has saved me from many embarrassments and made the book immeasurably richer. Professor Ira Katz-Nelson of Columbia University also gave its special close attention and made my valuable suggestions. Others who read it and provide helpful comments, including Rabbi David Wolpe and Reverend Peter Samuelson and Dr. Leslie Robin, Professor Isaac Jack Levy, gave meticulous attention to Chapter 8, Spain and beyond, and his expert knowledge of Sephardic jewelry improved it greatly. Alas, I cannot share with any of those colleagues the slightest responsibility for what is wrong with this book. That responsibility is only mine. My late wife, the ethnographer Marjorie Shattuck, was completely secular in origins and disposition, but she generously supported my increasingly frequent forays into Jewish practice, and more important, supports my commitment to share Jewish children. I will always be grateful for that and for her love and encouragement over the decades. Kate Moat, our Jewish nanny for over 15 years, has always done the same and has made a point of learning a lot about Judaism. Her devotion saved our family during my wife's long illness and after her death. My life has now been joined to that of Anna Kale Kruger, who has brightened its beyond measure and helped heal the wounds of the past. But my greatest gratitude goes to my 3 children, Susanna, Adam, and Sarah, who were 18, 14, and 9 when we lost their mother. Their resilience and love made it possible for me not just to survive, but to face the future with a new hope and dreams. Many of mine are simply theirs, and I hope to help them realize those dreams. This book is dedicated to 3 rabbis, Rabbi Bernard L. Berzin, was the passionate voice. I can still hear it ringing from the pulpit, and the leaders of my childhood Orthodox synagogue, whose guidance helped from My Consciousness, his collection of simple and forceful sermons, Good Beginnings, has just been brought back into print by Jonathan David. Publisher Rabbi Arnold M. Goodman is the emeritus spiritual leader of our family conservative synagogue in Atlanta, one of America's largest such congregations. Brilliant and insightful, he has worked for many years on the law committee of the conservative movement, and of our conversations over the years on subjects ranging from Torah to the biology of sexual orientation have never failed to bring me closer to an understanding of Judaism. Rabbi Herbert A. Friedman, President Emeritus of the Wexner Heritage Foundation, left a reform pulpit in Denver in 1945, joined the U.S. Army, went to Germany, and helped to save the remnant of Hitler's victims and get them to Israel. He indulged my strange approach to Judaism and Jewishness, a maverick, he once publicly called me, and directly and through the seminars taught me much about Jewish faith, Jewish practice, and the Jewish people. None of these deeply religious men could fully approve of my basically secular book, but I hope they would think it was good for the Jews and useful to anyone who wants to understand them. So in the table of contents, we have Genesis, how the Jews were born in Israel; Kingdom Come, how the Israelites became a nation; Babylon, how the kingdom fell and the culture changed; Roman ruin, how the Jews lost their land; 5. Diaspora, how the Jews dispersed among the enemies; 6. Crossed swords, how Christian power vanquished the Jews; under the minaret, how Islam partially tolerated the Jews, Spain and beyond; how the Sephardic Jews found romance; brightness, how Jewish genius changed and grew. Ends of the earth, how Jews thrived in exotic places; Yidden, how the Jews helped create modern Europe; Memaloshin, how the Ashkenazic Jewish spoke and thought; Smoke, how the Germans gave the Jews graves in the air; Fire, how the Jews fought back; the Golden Land, how the Jews helped make America; Heretz, how the Jews came home; Women of valor, and how Jewish women broke the patriarchal bonds; Conclusion, a drop of red wine, how the Jews will face the future. A Jewish timeline, notes for further reading, and index. I will conclude there for now and hopefully resume later. Blessings to all, and thank you for coming.